Welcome you all to the short summary of Beloved by Toni Morrison. Beloved was Toni Morrison's fifth novel. It was preceded by Tar Baby. It was the first of Dante's trilogy, followed by Jazz and Paradise. Beloved became a bestseller and received the 1988 Pulitzer Prize for Fiction. Its reception by critics was overwhelming, and the book is widely considered Morrison's greatest novel till date. Background to the novel Beloved. The novel Beloved is inspired by the life of Margaret Garner, an African American who escaped slavery in Kentucky by crossing the river to Ohio, a free state. Morrison came to know about Garner in an 1856 article, A Visit to the Slave Mother Who Killed Her Child, published in the newspaper An American Baptist. Morrison reproduced it in her edited compilation of the Black Book in the year 1974. Thus, Morrison based her novel on a real-life incident of an escaped slave woman who, upon recapture, killed her baby rather than allowed it to be taken back into slavery. Fugitive Slave Act was actually responsible for Margaret Garner's infanticide. It was passed on September 18 by the United States Congress in the year 1850. According to this law, it required that all escaped slaves upon recapture be returned to their masters, and citizens of free states had to cooperate them. This act was considered one of the causes of the Civil War, and the novel Beloved was also set after the American Civil War between 1861 to 1865. Dedication part of the novel Beloved. The book's dedication reads, 60 million and more. It refers to the Africans and their descendants who died as a result of slave trade. Let's see the characters in the novel one by one. The first one is Beloved. Who is Beloved? Beloved is clearly a central character of importance in the novel. She is also a mysterious figure whose presence is never fully explained in the novel. The dominant interpretation is that Beloved is the ghost of Said's dead daughter. Said's third child's tombstone is also engraved with the name Beloved. It is believed that she has been reincarnated in the form of a young woman to exact revenge on her mother for killing her. In an allegorical level, Beloved represents the inescapable, horrible past of slavery returned to haunt the present. Said. Said is the protagonist of Beloved, a proud, independent woman who is extremely devoted to children. She was the child of an African-born slave woman whose name she never knew. As a young teenager, she was brought to Sweet Home, where she took a man named Hallie Sachs for her husband. Later in the novel, she becomes the lover of Paul D. She had 4 children, 2 sons, namely Howard and Belger, and pregnant with the 4th when she fled Sweet Home on foot and alone. When the school teacher, the brutal master at Sweet Home, tracked her down, Said attempted to kill her children rather than see them return to slavery. She has a troubled relationship with her own past and has a mass of scars on her back that resembles a tree. Paul D. He is a slave at Sweet Home with many painful memories like Said. He represses his painful memories as a slave. After many years, he reunites with Said and begins to have a romantic relationship with her. He thus becomes Said's lover. Hal Sachs. He was Said's husband and the father of all her children. Hale vanished at the time when he was supposed to flee to the north with Said and got separated from the family during her escape. It is later informed in the novel by Paul D. that he had gone insane. He is not presented in the novel but mentioned through flashbacks. Baby Sachs. Hal Sachs' mother and Said's mother-in-law. After Said's act of infanticide, Baby Sachs retires to her deathbed where she develops an obsession with colors. Said inherits the house after her death. The next character is Amy Denver. Amy Denver is a compassionate young white girl. When Said was pregnant with her 4th child, Amy Denver helped her to escape from the Sweet Home. Amy saved Said's life, nurturing her back to health when Said's feet were bleeding badly from the travel. Amy delivered Said's daughter on a small boat, and Said names her 4th child Denver after her. Denver. Denver is Seth's only living child. Isolated from her community people after Beloved's killing, Denver forms a close bond with her mother. The setting of the novel, The Beloved. The novel was set in 1873 with frequent flashbacks to the early 1850s in the Sweet Home plantation in Kentucky and the prison in Georgia. Kentucky is the U.S. state in the southern region of the country. The Sweet Home in Kentucky in the novel was run by a cruel man known as Schoolmaster, who allowed his nephews to brutalize Seth while he took notes for his scientific studies of blacks. The plot overview. The novel Beloved is divided into 3 parts. Within each part there are smaller sections. The plot of Beloved follows 2 different stories. The first story takes place in the present time, which is the year 1873 in Cincinnati, Ohio. The second story unfolds through flashbacks of events that transpired in the past 18 years. The beginning of the novel, The Beloved. The novel opens with the following lines. 124 was spiteful, full of baby's venom. The women in the house knew it, so did the children. When the novel opens, the protagonist Seth, a formerly enslaved woman, has been living with her 18-year-old daughter Denver at 124 Bluestone Road. 124 is the home number in Bluestone Road. Why is 124 home spiteful or cruel? Because the house is haunted by the ghost of Seth's firstborn baby daughter. 8 years ago, Seth's mother-in-law, Baby Suggs, also lived with them in their house at 124 Bluestone Road. Baby Suggs sank into deep depression, exhausted by the life of slavery. Her death came after a while. Seth's son, Howard and Bulger, both ran away from 124 following encounters with their dead sister's ghost. That's why 124 was spiteful. Years after Baby Suggs' death, Denver and Seth continue to live in the house alone. Seth works as a cook and Denver spends her days alone. Though Denver is 18 years old and terribly lonely, she is afraid to leave the yard. In 1873, 2 visitors came to 124. The first one was Paul D., a man who was a slave with Seth back at Sweet Home. Paul D., like Seth, was haunted by the pain of the past. He suffered from unspeakable atrocities before the end of the Civil War. He has dark memories of time spent in a prison for the blacks. Paul D. becomes Seth's lover and he tries to help the family forget the bitter past. The second visitor is a girl named Beloved. She sits in front of their home and calls herself Beloved. It gradually becomes clear that she is the ghost of the dead baby come back to life at the age that the baby would have been had it lived. Seth comes to believe that Beloved is the daughter she had killed, as Beloved was all that she could afford to have engraved on her daughter's tombstone. Awkward, unable to speak like an adult and dressed in strange clothes, Beloved seems vulnerable at first but later proves to be powerful and malicious. Paul D. is suspicious of Beloved, but Seth is charmed by a young woman and ignores the advice of Paul D. Paul D. begins to feel increasingly uncomfortable in Seth's home. Paul D. and Beloved hate each other. Beloved despises him and tries to divide Seth from Paul D. Paul D. resists Beloved and her influence over him. But Beloved controls Paul D. by moving him around the house like a rag doll and seduces him against his will. Paul D. leaves home of Seth when he learns of Seth's infanticide and the extermination of Seth's family from community. Seth, on discovering Beloved's identity, believes she has been given a second chance to rectify her sins of killing her daughter. She tries to make amends for the past, but the girl's needs are devouring, that is, eating greedily. Seth begins to spend all her time and money on Beloved to the point that Seth loses her job. Seth hardly eats and becomes weaker. On the other hand, beloved grows bigger and bigger, eventually taking the form of a pregnant woman. Beloved only grows more demanding, and Denver is forced to go to the community for help. In the novel's climax, some of the local women come to the house to exorcise or to remove Beloved from home. Beloved disappears suddenly, and Denver becomes a walking member of the community. Seth, towards the end of the novel, is depressed of Beloved's disappearance and in bedridden remorsefully informs Paul D that Beloved was her best thing. But Paul D replies to Seth that she is her own best thing. And Seth questions in the end, Me? What do you understand from the novel? Beloved is truly a haunting and dark novel with full of gothic elements and terrible violence. The ghost represents the power of legacy of slavery which continues to trouble Seth 18 years after she won her freedom. Beloved not only is the spirit of the dead baby, but also she is an embodiment of all suffering under slavery. Seth's memory extends back to the slave ships that first carried blacks to the America. Morrison has effectively put Seth's act in context without condemning, at the same time without excusing too. Common themes. The first one is slavery's destruction of identity. Beloved explores the physical, emotional, and spiritual devastation wrought by slavery that continues to haunt those characters who were former slaves even in freedom. Next, the psychological effects of slavery. Slavery splits a person into fragmented figure. Seth, Paul D, and baby Zach's painful memories and unspeakable past deny their self-identity. Family relationships. The slavery system did not allow African Americans to have rights to themselves, to their family belongings, and even their children. So Seth killing Beloved was deemed a peaceful act because Seth believed that killing her daughter was saving her. Motherhood. Beloved is definitely a story about motherhood and how slavery impacted black women's ability to be good mothers. Seth's trauma of her guilt and her strained relationship with her surviving children are notable. Thank you.